Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is all of my Colonial knives, and so I thought I'd just get them together and look over them. There's some very interesting things about these knives. Not particularly high collector value or interest in these knives, but they are interesting in a couple ways, and history is kind of interesting too. So if you'd like to hear more about that, go ahead and check out the channel. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hi to all my viewers. Bonjour, privet, guten tag, hola, ciao, konnichiwa, and good day to my foreign viewers. So yeah, we're going to look at these Colonial knives today. Colonial really doesn't have a high collector value or interest. And that's because they made pretty inexpensive knives. You could just look at them and tell they're just not really quality made. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't good knives. And so, how do you define that? A knife that you can use every day and fulfills its purpose is probably a good knife. They weren't the most durably built knives, and obviously they weren't the most finely finished. But they were inexpensive, and to a lot of people, these were really popular knives throughout the 20th century. And so we're going to look at these. There are some really interesting things about these knives. I'm not a colonial collector. I don't have a deep knowledge about these knives, but I can tell you some things that I have found about these knives. So I'm not a colonial expert, is what I'm saying, but I'm going to share with you what I've found about these knives. So first, these knives were produced by a company that was founded by the Palantino brothers. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's up there, the spelling on it. There were three brothers, Dominic, Frederick, and Anthony, and they founded Colonial Knife Company. You can see, so I haven't really cleaned these knives up at all. I put some oil in them, but that just goes to tell you it's not a big priority on my plate. I think most of these need to be cleaned up still. And most of them, I have bought a few of these, but most of them I just got as part of a lot of knives where I was looking for another knife. So anyhow, the brothers, Dominic, Frederick, and Antonio, came around around 1917, I think, into the country from Italy, and they have a background in cutlery. Their family was involved in cutlery back in Italy, and so I think they came to America with that dream to you know um, build a knife company in America. And shortly after they came, World War One broke out, and Anthony uh, joined the war effort as an American, and he he was a blacksmith in the army, and so he was gaining that experience of working with metal and blacksmithing, and his brothers Dominic and Frederick went to work for knife companies, uh, Meridian and Imperial, respectively. So in 1920, after the war, Antonio comes back and he um, starts the A. Palladino Cutlery Company, making skeleton knives at first is what he was doing. And then his brothers, Dominic and Frederick, joined him in 1928. They joined forces and they started the Colonial Cutlery Company in 1926. So these were never high end knives. I'm not aware that they ever made a really high end knife, but most of these knives are some type of a look at that three spring there. Most of these knives are some type of shellback design, and these knives are like uh, chronically hard to date. I imagine somebody who collects these and has been doing it for a long time and a lot of research may be able to date them better than I can. But that's one of the interesting things about these knives. So probably the first really surprising thing about these knives that I can tell you when you look at them, there's two basic types, and I'll tell you right off, I don't have any of the original knives in my collection. Maybe you do. Um, that were traditionally penned and made, and that would just be great to have. But these are the shellback design, like Imperial made, where the entire front here shell of the knife is one piece and it's stamped in, and you can see that on the corners here. Um, so they started making these shellback type knives in 1938. So any shellback knife, a knife that's not pinned, is going to date from 1938. But the interesting thing is these are not the oldest knives. This shellback design, which is the case with an imperial knife. And I think that's really interesting, and I'll show you what I mean. I've divided these knives into two basic types. And so when you look at this knife right here, it looks like it may have been pinned, but it hasn't. There's no pin marks in this knife here. And it is a shellback design on this knife. And so, make sure that's true. Yeah, there's no pin here. And so the way this is put on is by a couple little tabs that are in this shell, and it slips onto the liner and then locks in, slides into it. So it's a slot design, okay? Slot design. These are like an imperial shellback where they're clamped on, stamped, and the whole knife is a shell, and it's put on and clamped in. And this is from a patent, and I'll show you that right now. The patent is up there. Patent number is up on the screen. Let me see if I can get a good picture of it here. So there's the patent. And you'll find this on several knives. But this patent was granted in 1967. So, and the patent ran to 1984. So, the knives that have that patent date on it are 1967 and 1984. And these shellback type uh, designs are from that period of time. These do not have the shellback, or I'm sorry, the patent number on them, so they're older. They're pre 1969 knives, and so they would be dated in between 1938 when they started using the shellback design and 1965. So they're actually the older type design. You get a really good sense of how they're not finished very well. That. So besides these old kind of looking knives, you have some more modern looking knives here, but these knives are actually shellbacks, and you can see that right there. So this is not a pen design, it is a shellback. And the interesting thing is it's not the tabbed shellback. And so this knife carries the patent. I believe it's this knife that carries the patent number. Let me make sure. Yeah. So this knife carries the patent number and was made after 1967. And another interesting thing is this pine knot was a trademark of Belknap Hardware Company. So Belknap went out of business in 1960. So I don't know whether they just used it or bought the trademark or paid a license fee, but it's really interesting. And this has a coal miner on it with West Virginia. You can't hardly see it anymore, but West Virginia stamped there, and you can see that the coal miner. So this is a substantial knife. Um, it works pretty good, but it's not a step up above the other knives really, and it still has that shellback design. Now I know I'm pretty sure Tobias at Knife Chats with Tobias did a really good review of this coal miner knife and had I think more information, but I can't remember it all, and I didn't look at the video before I made this. So if you want to know more about this, check out Tobias's video on the coal miner knife at Knife Chats with Tobias. But that's a different branding. And up on the screen right now, you can see all the different brands that Colonial made. And these, like I said, they're not highly collectible, but there is a really solid core of people who love to collect these knives. They're very inexpensive, they're interesting, and they do have a really good fan base. Now, this is an old Cutler brand right here. And this old Cutler trademark came out in 1967. And it's very similar to this pine knot knife in construction as you look at the two. But again, let me show you how crazy this is. If you look down here, look how bent this blade is to get it to fit. This is a muskrat pattern. And when I pull this out, look at the crazy bend on that knife. It's bent so hard. There's a little dimple right here that came up in the metal. And what's crazy about that is if you look at the liners in here, there's 3 liners up here and 2 on the bottom. And they put extra liners to move this blade over and then bent the crap out of this blade to get it to fit. And, all they had to do is not put the other liner there, right? And put a spacer on the other side, maybe, or make this a little wider. So it's like they didn't even know how to put a knife together in 1967. You can also see the stamp marks, and it's irregular here. And they didn't even finish it. So they didn't. Usually the back of your knife is run on a sander to finish it and make it all flush. And you can see there that's not even done. It's like they just slammed this thing together. This company ran up until 1999, and then it closed, I guess is the best word for it. And the interesting thing is that family members brought this company back in 2002, and Colonial made a lot of knives for the military. And so, in particular, they made a parachutist knife. It's up in the picture. It was an automatic knife. And today I went on the website and checked out Colonial. And this is a cool knife. I like this little knife. Kind of like a mini trapper. But today they make very high quality knives. And so that's kind of interesting. I mean, they sell their knives for hundreds of dollars, up to $200 for their knives, and they look like they're good knives, but they really don't look space age in their design. And if I can remember, I'll put a picture up there for you. Here's a little peanut. This has the USA on it. And then the Colonial on the main blade, I believe. Yeah, Colonial, Providence, Rhode Island. There's a couple different tank stamps that they used, but I don't think there's any way to actually date them. An interesting knife in this collection is this knife. It looks like a Colonial, has a stamped shield like Colonial uses, but you can see it's penned construction. And the tank stamp on this knife is Leader, made in USA. I only found one little blurb on this. It was on a blog, and the person, I don't know whether they knew it for certain or not, but they said that Colonial bought this company. I can't find any verification of it, but this is a well-made knife here. So it's made properly in a traditional fashion. These are, I believe, Bakelite scales on it, and it's a good solid knife. It's also a pretty large knife. So this may not be a Colonial at all, but that's the information I got on it, and so I included it in there. And then this one doesn't have the it's an electrician's knife, and it doesn't have the you can see standard. This is a little different tang stamp than they usually use, and it doesn't have the patent number on this knife. And I think you can see almost every single one of them are rusted. So I think this knife was made between 1984 and 1999 when they went out of business. It also looks a lot newer and is a little better made if you look at it right there. And so this is finally, relatively even across there with just a plastic kind of tortoiseshell look handle on it. So I think this is fairly modern. All the rest are not. I want to cover a couple interesting things before I let you go. So this knife is a utility knife. It used to have a bail on it. It has your standard utility knife type of blades here, and you can see it has old style cap lifter on it and an old style can opener on it. So this is a half Hawk can opener, and companies did that because when Imperial came out with their can opener, a Hawk can opener, Hawkbill can opener, in 1944 it was patented, and so they couldn't use them until 1964. But what's unusual about this, I wanted to show you, is this. Oh, man, this is hard. Hold on a minute. Okay, got her open. This is the utility knife, and it has the electrician's blade on it. Isn't that interesting? On a utility knife? I thought that was pretty interesting. The other thing is the use of 3 springs. So this little junior Stockman has 3 springs on it, and this pine knot has 3 springs on it. So why on the old Cutler model they didn't use 2 springs at least, I don't know. But this thing is just, wow. That is, I don't know what to say about that. This is our Barlow. Fairly good Barlow. I think this Barlow is newer. Maybe 70s or 80s. There's a tank stamp on it. You can see it. That's a nice little Barlow. Inexpensive. You can see how nothing really matches up here. Half stop. Half stop has raised. You can see the back springs are raised up. These things work good, by the way. I need to clean them up, don't I? Alright, so that's my collections of Colonials, such that it is. And I hope you found the information informative for what it is. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.